Good morning, Chavra. Today might be one of the most important lessons you could learn from Tanya. The Alter Rebbe is going to teach us how to avoid negative thoughts, thoughts of self-indulgence, selfishness, dark, evil thoughts. How do you avoid that? How do you get rid of that? Alter Rebbe is going to give you today a method. A proven method that works. So listen up, guys, if you want to. Adam, pay attention. Or Adam. Okay. Today is the 23rd day of Teves, January 4th. I do have some sidekicks here with me today. We'll see if they get in on the class. Of course, as soon as I took the phone away, they ran. Today's lesson, the after effects of devotional prayer, love and fear of Hashem, provides sufficient strength to the Beinoni. You're davening, you're davening to Hashem. You have total kavanah and total love during the Shema and Shemona Esrei and during the davening that you have, and that should give you the strength to ward off the animal-like soul during the rest of the day. As soon as a negative thought or feeling rises within, the Beinoni consciously pushes it away, not entertaining it willfully, rather doing the reverse. So here's the key. Here's the trick. What are you going to do? The impression retained in his mind from his meditation during davening on the greatness of Hashem and the natural love and fear of Hashem in the right side of the heart enable him to prevail over and dominate the evil animal of craving. Okay, so this is like, what do you do? Exactly. This is pearls of wisdom right now that the Alter Rebbe just explained. That he said during davening, you meditate on the greatness of Hashem, and that should give you strength to ward off the evil during the day. What do? What do you think during the Shema and Shemona Esrei? What is in your mind? What is in your mind, Steve? What's the oneness of God? So what is your mind thinking? What are you visualizing? God, man. Okay, those are words, but what is in your mind at that time? Steve, what's in your mind during Shema? Pay attention to the words. This is very, very important. Hold on, Jeff. We'll get to you.
Imagine what it is to be one, because it's beyond.
Oh, so it's impossible to think of nothing. So
not nothing. It's focusing on the concept of one.
We're focusing on the concept of one, but what's the imagery in your mind? There's no imagery. So what is it? Black?
Like when Tanya lost her sight in one eye, it's like I should have closed one eye. It's not black.
It's not black.
It just isn't.
So when you close your eyes and you put your hand in front of it, you see shadows. You see through your eyelid, right? When you put your hand over your eyes, you see blackness. But what some people do is they try to think of something very holy, like an image of the Beis Hamikdash in heaven, or because you can't think of Hashem. Hashem is nothing, right? You can't. There's no image that you can put in your mind that's Hashem.
That's what I'm saying,
right?
Right. That's the point.
But what if you think of a fiery aleph, where the Yud on top and the Yud on bottom, and the line that connects the two is God and the Yidden, and there's a connection between the two. Not you, but I'm saying, what if somebody is thinking, he looks and he has the image of the holy Torahs. When we open up the Aron and when we do Hagbah, we see the Torahs, and we see that what's written in the Torah, and that's an image that brings us, because we know, if we learned so many times, that the way we connect to God is by learning His Torah. So if we have the imagery of Torah in our mind, we know that it's not the essence of God, but that's our connection to God through the Torah. So the letters of the Torah allow us to connect to Hashem. So if we have that image in our mind in a strong way, and I'm sorry, Jeff, I didn't even ask you, what do you have in mind? If you want to share with us. Shemona Esrei.
Saying during Shema, every word.
It might not be an example. It's just it's a question. The question is, what do you have in mind during Shema? It's not a good example. What's the example? I'm asking a question.
But I'm saying, the words themselves are very.
You know what? You hit on an excellent point. Teach your children So while you say the words children, you're thinking of your children. While you're thinking of going on the way, you're thinking of the way. While you're thinking of the mitzvahs, you're holding your tzitzis. But what do you do when you say, Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, God is one. So what are you thinking? So either you're stepping ahead and you're holding on to your tzitzis, which is the mitzvahs that God gave us, or it's the Torah. So that's the way we connect, because there's no image of God in our minds, right? Okay, now that we grasped that and we think that, okay, so we're going to do a little exercise now. We're going to do a little exercise, okay? Pick one of those things, whether it's the tzitzis, so your eyes are closed, but you're reaching for your tzitzis, so you have imagery of a bunch of white strings that you have in your mind, maybe a blue one, I don't know, but you have the tzitzis in your hand, but that's in your mind right now because your eyes are closed, okay? And it might be the Torah when you raise the Torah up, or it might be teaching your children, when you're sitting around the Seder table, so you're having this imagery in your mind of teaching your children. That's the mitzvah of Pesach, of course, eating the matzah and drinking the 4 cups and everything else. But one of the most important mitzvahs is teaching and passing on that tradition, the story of Yetzias Mitzrayim to your children. So you're thinking of your children, right? You mentioned your daughter and the eye. So you're thinking of your children and passing that on to your children. You have to pass on the love of Hashem for your children. So you're thinking of your children, you're thinking of the Torah, you're thinking of your tzitzis. Okay? Okay, let's put that aside a second. Right? Now we're walking along, almost like the Yidden in the desert. We're walking along. Guys, try to visualize this. Do this exercise with me. We're walking along in the desert. And we're with the Yidden going out of Mitzrayim. And that's where we're about to talk about in the parashas. So we're walking along and it's very, very hot. Then it comes night. There's no lights. There's no lights like there are. It's the time of month that there's no moon. It's very, very dark. And then you get to the edge of a cliff and it's complete blackness down there. Okay? So in your mind, you see rocky and sandy, but only like what's right in front of your eyes, because the only little bit of light that you have is maybe a few stars. There's no moon. It's very, very dark. And it's scary when it's dark out like that, right? And then there's this huge cavernous hole and you see blackness and it doesn't end. Okay, we got that in our minds? Now let's go back to what we said before, the Torah. So Hagba, and we see the Torah. There's 3 columns, and you're trying to visualize. Oh, we see Shmois, the beginning of Shmois, and we can't see exactly where the ending of the Aliyah is, but we see the beginning because it's clear. There's a big space. You got it, Jeff? Okay. As soon as I said Shmois and the Torah, you forgot completely about the blackness and darkness of that hole as we were walking through the desert in the dark night. And that's what happens. You when you consciously think of one thing, you don't try to remove, you completely replace, you push out whatever you were thinking before. So now let's use that as a practical example. And I know it works because I've tried this a million times and I just did it on you and I'm telling you it works. When you're thinking, true or not, the minute we thought of the Torah, because you didn't know what I was about to do, you thought of the Torah being raised and you're visualizing the Atzei Chaim and the letters and the words. And that whole idea and concept of the darkness and the black hole and that scary moment was gone. It wasn't even put to the side. It was completely out of your mind, even if it was momentary. So once I reminded you of that black hole, okay, now we're putting 2 and 2 together. So this is what happens. We go to daven, and you're thinking of no. Well, sometimes we get a little distracted. We go to daven, and we're thinking as best we can of Hashem Echad, business, he said. We're thinking, Steve, as best we can of Hashem Echad, and it's very hard to visualize that because there's nothing, as Steve was saying before, it's nothing. It's not black, but it's not a thing. So it's something that we grapple with, and that's why the Torah teaches us that we connect ourselves to Torah and the Tanya explains based on the Gemara and the Kabbalah that the Torah and God are one. So if we hold dear to the Torah and we look and see the letters, that's why we daven with our eyes also, because when you close your eyes, you can't visualize God. Forgive me, but however spiritual and however holy we might be, we can't. And that's why our eyes should be, during the Shema part, we close our eyes like this, and we do the best we can, but we have an image of the Aleph, the image of the Torah. The Torah and Hashem are one. So it's the physical Torah that we know how to connect with. And maybe somehow we're able to make it into a spiritual thing by allowing it to take on a little, 3D dimension or whatever it might be. But then we go to Hashem loves us, and we think about the greatness of God. We think about it when we walk on the way. So we're actually thinking, maybe when I walk from here to my car, or I'm walking around the block, teach it to our children. We're thinking about our children. We're thinking about the tefillin as we bind it upon our arm and our heads, visualizing the tefillin. And we're thinking about the mezuzah that's on the doorpost. So now, if we visualize those images in our head and we connect to them and hold them dear and cherish them, and then we're going to our car and we're starting to drive and we get into traffic and we look and we're like, oh, not so. I forgot to call that guy back and he's going to be mad. And how could I do such a thing? And so, Chaim Yankel was supposed to remind me to call him, and now I'm late. Now I'm upset with him. So already my day's ruined. And this is the Nefesh HaBaham is telling you that it's your fault or his fault, and it's not Hashem's plan of exactly the way things were supposed to play out. Of course, you have to be responsible and you have to do the best you can. But if you're stuck in traffic and you're like, I can't believe I missed that red light, Hashem wanted you to miss and be stuck at that red light. So when the Nefesh HaBaham is trying to tell you, be selfish because you have to get from here to there, and you have to be on time, and you have to be the first, and you have to eat that donut on the way out, and you have to, what's for lunch, and whatever it might be that the Nefesh HaBaham is trying to get you on the way and on your phone and in your head, and you say, I just davened. That imagery that I had during Shema was holiness, was godliness, was connecting me to my thousands of years of heritage, to my tradition, to what I love and what Hashem taught us and promised us and gave us as our inheritance, and shows us from amongst all the other nations to be strong and to carry on this torch. So the minute when that happens, and something happens where it's either anger or jealousy or lustfulness or some kind of a craving for something, I'm not hungry. Why do I want to eat that? It's not mine. She left it here, so I'll put it on the side. It's not for me. I already had my breakfast. I don't need to eat that extra piece of cupcake. So instead of, and that's low level, but our minds start to wander. We see things and our phones are buzzing. Like, oh, how did that come up? And you just suddenly like, what just happened to the last half hour? I shouldn't have been wasting my time on that. Or even worse, God forbid, if it was evil. So the minute something pops up, we go back to, I just davened. So that strength and connection to Hashem while we said Shema and Shemona Esrei. And now, by the way, this should help us also have more kavanah during davening, because I have to set the stage and I have to have the power and the koyach. The more joyous we are in Simchas Torah, we're going to take that throughout the entire year. The more light and the more time we spend by the menorah, we're going to take that light throughout the entire year. So every single day, the more kavanah and meditation and holiness, instead of being distracted by business, which happens sometimes, we say, no, I have to think about my children. I have to think about the letters. I have to think about the words. Do you know that every single crown in the Torah on top of the letters have spiritual significance and meaning? So we think about that and we look, and by the way, that's something that gives us a practical eitzah to do. Look at the letters. Read the words with our eyes and see the letters of the Torah and enunciate them as clearly and as succinctly and distinctly as possible. So we have that, and we have a powerful moment during davening. Then we take that, the kavanah, which is all the thoughts, whatever we possibly could have. Oh, you want to get deeper into the thoughts? There are deeper meditations. There are deeper ways to go to a spiritual level. Sure. But this is on just a basic level that everybody can do and should do. Then you take that with you. And then you realize, again, you turn on your phone right before you're about to leave, and you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this happened. No. Think about my children. Think about the Torah. Think about the chumash of the day. Think about the Tehillim we just said. Maybe translate the words so it's more meaningful. And as soon as we do that, we now push away. That dark pit is gone. Okay, so it's creeping up throughout the day. And the stronger I am and the better I can practice this idea of bringing godliness, holiness, spiritual thoughts, good thoughts, Torah and mitzvahs, holding on to my tzitzis. It's as simple as, I'm thinking about the strings and each one represents a different mitzvah. Which mitzvah can I do? Am I going to wash and have a bagel today and say hamaitzi, and then when I bench, it's a mitzvah from the Torah to say those words? It's an amazing opportunity. So this is the struggle of a Beinoni, and this is how a Beinoni overcomes. It's practicing and exercising your mindfulness. Knowing that the challenges, knowing that the hop-ups and the attacks are going to constantly come. And so we're the minute it happens, you're like, tzitzis. That's why I was saying yesterday, I know, I was picking on Adam because he has the tzitzis sticking out. So maybe that was one of the intentions. You're wearing tzitzis, you're wearing tzitzis. Where does it say in the Torah you have to wear them sticking out? But the minute you have a thought, you could look down and hold on to your tzitzis for strength. And your tzitzis represent the 613 mitzvahs. So you look down at your tzitzis and you think, no, I'm focusing on the mitzvahs now. This connects me to Hashem. The commandments, the 613 commandments are connections to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I don't want to lose those because the Yetzer Hara is trying to get me to be, as we said in the last couple of days, stupid, folly, shtus. That's where he starts. Don't take that so seriously. And he creeps in with the little things. The little things. This doesn't have to happen to you. You're a bigger man than that. Don't let that guy say things like that to you. You have every right to stick up for yourself. Selfishness. If we could put that away in every respect, then we got to figure it out. So this is the ground with the baseline of the starting point of the instruction for where we could take that energy. And by the way, we didn't even talk about how we have to do that during davening. How do we get to that point that during Shema and during Shemana Esrei, we get your distractions physically and mentally and emotionally coming at you from every different direction? So Aliyah Shlita, we want to make sure that the Nefesh Bahamis does not have any supremacy. To have dominion and to control the city, which is the body of the person, and carry out its cravings from the potential to the actual in the organs of the body, from actual speech and deed. Furthermore, even in the mind alone, with respect to sinful thought, the evil has not the dominion and power to cause him, God forbid, to think such thoughts consciously. When it happens unconsciously, then we could say, I couldn't control it. It just popped into my head. Sometimes you see something, you could look away. But when something comes into your head, it's a little harder than just looking away. So that's the unconscious way it pops into your head. But you don't think about it. That's the key. There's a very big difference than something just entering your mind and consciously thinking about it, contemplating on that idea. What happens is when it enters his mind, and then it causes him to accept willingly, God forbid, the evil thought that rises of its own accord from the heart to the mind, as explained above. So first it enters your mind, and you say, that guy cut me off, let's say. I'm just doing low-level stuff, but we all have our own struggles with whatever it might be, right? That guy cut me off. So the first thing, oh man, I'm not going to let him get away with it. I'm going to go and I'm going to let him hear me by the next light. I'm going to give him, a special finger, and I'm going to say some word and it's not. Or you're like, 1 second, I just came from davening. We have to be kind. Maybe he's more in a rush. Let me let him through. Maybe he's on his way to the hospital. There's a story about a guy who's riding the train, back in the good old days. He's riding the train. His kids are bouncing off the walls and they're making a ruckus, right? The subway, and they're making noise and they're making, and the person across is like, can't you control your kids? You're disgusting. You literally have, your kids are behemoths, and and he says to the guy, he says, we're on our way back from their mother's funeral. I don't know what to tell them. They're struggling. They're emotionally struggling. Imagine what he felt like a minute later. He's like, a minute ago, I was thinking how vilt these kids are. And as soon as I know their reality, suddenly I have so much rachmanis for them. He takes out a lollipop, he gives it to the kids are thanking him. So we don't know what somebody else goes through. A guy walks in and he doesn't hold the door for you. Can't you have a little courtesy and hold the door for me? And the guy's just like, he just heard that his grandmother was taken to the hospital emergency, and he's like, he's in his own little bubble, his own little world. right? Imagine somebody's laning and he skips a word. Steve.
Yeah.
Imagine the guy's laning, he skips a word. What's wrong with that guy? So it's easy to just to allow the Nefesh HaBahamis to be selfish and say, oh, we come first. And once you start thinking about it, that's the we're not even saying to start analyzing and everything else, maybe, judge him favorably, just push it aside. Unless it comes to your attention where you could do something positive to influence him or help him or her or whatever it might be. So the takeaway for today is someone who wronged you, rather than hold on to resentment and anger, which can result in revenge, work towards forgiveness. We didn't get to all the words in the Tanya today because we're going to go a little bit short, but work towards forgiveness. You don't know what that person's going through. Maybe they just heard, when we you hear of somebody ill and somebody sick or something's going on in their lives that you have no idea of. You're like, why don't you hold the door for me? Now I have to sit and push the numbers in and I have trouble at the combination. But if you knew that person was struggling, something happened in the family, something happened this morning in the home, he lost his job. You don't know what's going on with somebody else. And then, first of all, you don't judge him. You take a step back. Instead of being selfish of what do I need, you're like, okay, maybe something's going on. And then we take it a step further to see if we could do him a favor and help him. So there's more to discuss, but the main idea, I think, is that when we have the proper kavanah during the davening, and we hold on to that, we have a visualization of something holy and something special, something spiritual. We take that with us throughout the entire day. Then when we interact with somebody else, it's a whole different perspective. It's not what do I need and how could I gain the upper hand? It's what am I needed for? Maybe that other person needs my help. Have a good day.